Hosting your own event, you have the opportunity to do a presentation. Really, when you host your own event, the ball is in your court. You can do whatever you want to do. So like Brooke had mentioned, she had, was it 5 minutes to speak at this chiropractic event? When you host your own event, you can make your own time. You can say, well, I'm going to do a speech for 20 minutes in the very beginning, and then I'm going to, fill it up with some activities, and then do a closing speech at the very end. You can do whatever you want. But what that does when you get in front of the crowd and you start doing your presentation is it creates credibility. So people not only see you as, the face of this event and the authority figure, but they're also seeing you now as someone who's trustworthy, because oftentimes when you do your presentation, it's going to be something that you're an expert at in relation to your industry. And if it's something that people, find insightful, or they learn something new, that's going to make it a memorable experience as well. So when they participate in future networking events where they're going to someone else's networking event, they're going to be like, wow, this event was so much better, or I really like the speech so much better at this other event. So you really have the opportunity to make it whatever you want. You have control over who you invite. So you don't have to just do a big community invite on Facebook to anyone who wants to attend. Unless you are doing a big community event, then you'll want to invite everyone. But if you want to hold a private event for specific referral partners or people that you want to build relationships with, you have the opportunity to control who even gets invited. So like, for example, when Brooke hosts her own community events, she's the only personal injury attorney, because you don't want to host your own events and then have one of your competitors come in. You want to be seen as that authority figure. And when you're hosting the events, you can control whether or not another personal injury attorney is invited, or whatever the case may be in relation to your industry. You also have the opportunity for deeper conversations when you host your own events. So like we had mentioned before, where people will line up to talk to you, usually people will want to learn more about you. It's not just superficial, what services do you provide? What products do you offer? Where are you located? It's more on the lines of like, why do you do what you do? Or, they'll pick up things from whatever your presentation was about, and they'll talk to you about things personally because they genuinely want to get to know you and establish a bond. Whereas if you're just another vendor at an event, they're just making small talk and going on to the next booth. So those are kind of the pros of hosting your own events.
When you're hosting your own event, I love to use Eventbrite because it is free if your event is free. If it's a paid event, then I think there's a fee, but my events have always been free, so I haven't had to pay to use Eventbrite. But it gathers the information for you. It gives you a format to be able to send reminder emails as the event grows closer, and it just really helps with keeping track of who's coming, who's gotten a ticket, who's RSVP'd, etc. And people can subscribe to your Eventbrite. This last event that I did was going to be a smaller event. We only had room for, it was a walking food tour, and we only had 12 spaces available. And within the first 3 hours of the event being posted on Eventbrite, we hadn't invited anybody. And because I was going to invite people, selectively, because we only had so few seats, we had RSVPs coming in already. I had 3 or 4 RSVPs coming in before I had invited anybody. And it was because they had subscribed to our Eventbrite channel or whatever it is. And they got a notification when we created the Eventbrite page, it sent them an email letting them know that it had been created, and they went and RSVP'd before I even had a chance to invite anyone. So some of the cons of in-person events, and I've done a lot of these this year. I've done community events. We did an Easter event that was a Christian-based Easter event for children. There was no Easter bunnies. There was no Easter eggs. Everything was Jesus-centered crafts. We had local church groups and community groups who did some Christian-based dance. We did a Christian-based Easter puppet show, skits. We had bounce houses, and we had a life-size, tomb with an angel that the kids could walk in and look at the tomb, and the angel would say to them, "Are you looking for Jesus? He's not here. He's risen." So we put on this community event for Easter. So that would be an event that you're hosting for anyone in the community. But then I've also done more networking type events. I created an organization called Max Med Connections that is just for medical providers, for doctors. And these events are, we have a targeted demographic of who we are inviting, and it is not just open to anyone, it's invite only. And so when I talk about the pros and cons here, just keep in mind, I've done both of these different types of events. We were doing the Max Med Connection events. We've probably done 6 or 8 of them, and we've done several community events as well. So just the different types is what to keep in mind. Now, some of the cons, it's much more expensive to do an in-person event where you're hosting it. The expense falls on you. Now, to alleviate some of that, you can get sponsors who will share in some of the expense. They'll pay in, and then they get some type of benefit of being a sponsor, and that can help spread the expense. However, that adds to the work, because now you got to find these sponsors, and finding a sponsor for every event, or finding multiple sponsors. You oftentimes have to find multiple sponsors if it's going to be an expensive event, to share the costs among a number of people. And that's a whole nother layer of work you have to do, is finding the sponsors and then following up to get the payment. And
it's very stressful.
Yes, and even dealing with exclusive sponsorships, because some sponsors they pay to be exclusive, and then you have another provider who does the same type of business, saying, "I really wanted to come. I can't come. Can you please ask them? Can I come? I really want," and that puts you in a really awkward position, that you gave someone exclusive sponsorship, but then there's other people who still want to come, and how to deal with that. But I'm getting on a rabbit trail here. So it's much more expensive. It is also, to me, the most stressful part of it is the inviting part. The community events is not so hard to invite to, because you're inviting everyone in the community. But when you have these targeted groups, networking type events, getting a good group of people there is not easy, and it's time consuming. So, I've used a call center that I paid to call and text and email invitees 40 hours a week to be able to get people to my events. That's another cost. Sometimes you can have your sponsors be responsible to bring a certain number of people. We say each sponsor, you're responsible for bringing 5 people each, and that way we're guaranteed to have 25 people if you have 5 sponsors. In my experience, though, the sponsors just want to give you a check. They don't want to be responsible for bringing people. It's usually been all on me, the invite and getting people there.
Are you looking to increase your online reviews? We are hosting a 1-hour virtual biz review swap. This is your chance to share and receive reviews from 20 other business professionals. We are limiting this exclusive review swap to the first 20 business owners who register.
If you're interested in boosting your Google, Yelp, Facebook, or any other reviews, register now by using the Eventbrite link. Mark your calendar for November 10th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's boost your online presence and let's get biz done. There's so much work that goes into coordinating the venue, ordering food and drinks. If you're going to do an interactive activity, which we always do for our Max Med events, we've done things from cocktail making classes to line dance classes with a mechanical bull. We've done sushi making classes. We have done, what else have we done? Top Golf, which is like a driving range. We've done a wine and cheese pairing class.
Food tour.
The food tour was the most recent one we did. Just so many different events. We always try to do an interactive activity to help break the ice and help people start working together on the activity to open the door to more in-depth conversations. But coordinating that whole activity, planning for the activity, setting up for the activity is a lot of work. We have decorations involved, invitations, name tags, registration table, making sure you've got the microphone set up, PowerPoint. We always have a PowerPoint presentation that we use to put all the sponsors on, and it's themed for whatever the event is, making sure you have your screen, your music, and all of that. There's just a lot of planning and preparation that goes into in-person events. And if you're a smaller business that doesn't have staff available to help you, it's going to be really tough.
And I think too, there's always that fear: is anybody going to show up? Did I just spend all this time and this money for nobody to come? Because a lot of times, even when people RSVP, they're not all going to show up. So I think just kind of dealing with that fear that people might not show up is something that is another stress factor.
Oh, that's my biggest fear is, are these people going to show up? Because you get a lot of no-shows and cancellations for the in-person events as well when you're hosting. And I found that for the Max Med events, that it's about 50% show up who RSVP. So if I want 50 people there, I need to have 100 RSVPs is kind of the rule of thumb that I go by. But if it's a community event, it's going to be a lower percentage than that, because just anyone who comes across it in their Facebook feed may think, oh, that looks fun, let me register for it, it's free. And then when the day actually comes, I think it's probably only about 25% actually show up to a community event when they've RSVP'd, especially if it's free and something they didn't have to pay for. So yeah, the invite is the toughest part, getting people there, and giving them a motivation to want to come. With the Max Med events, doctors refer patients to each other, so they're oftentimes interested in meeting doctors of other specialties. And certain doctors are interested in meeting lawyers. So by me being a lawyer, that also is a motivation to them to want to come to meet a lawyer and to meet other doctors who could potentially refer them patients. So that's the motivation that gets people to that event. And also the activity we're doing is usually a fun activity that I think also provides some motivation. But, you've got to think about that. You can't just say, I'm going to do this event and start inviting people without there being some real motivation to get them there. Because there's so many networking events that are out there, and it's just really hard to get people to want to come to yours versus all the other opportunities that are out there. So the goal in the in-person events is to create your audience, impress your audience, create you wouldn't believe moments. One example of that is one of our Max Med events. The sponsors did a dance off, and they weren't all too excited about the dance off.
Some of them were. Some of them got really into it.
Yes. Turns out one of our sponsors was a professional dancer, and she obviously won. But the rest of us had a good time, and it was a you wouldn't believe moment. It was something that you've got these different doctors and MRI facilities, and me as a lawyer up there and I put together a song mix of different types of music, and just dancing through it with our feather boas, and it was fun, and it made people smile, and it was definitely memorable. I asked actually in the event for people to raise their hands. I said, if you have been to a networking event other than this one in the last 30 days, raise your hand. And huge percentage of the room raised their hand, maybe 80, 90%. And then I said, if you have ever been to a networking event that had a sponsored dance-off or a dance-off of any sort, raise your hand. And not one hand was raised. And so for me, the goal was accomplished. We did something different. We did something memorable. We made fun of ourselves and got a little silly, but people will remember that. And I'll tell you, my MaxMed events, so many times I meet new people in the medical field who say to me, I haven't met you, but I've heard about your events. So they know who I am because they've heard of the events. And I've had people reach out to me on their own volition who I have never met and said, I'd like to sponsor your next event. I'm hearing great things about them. So it has brought a lot of value, but it has brought a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and I don't want you to underestimate that, because it really is, and you really need a team of people to pull it off in a first class way. And I have that. My staff is incredible. Everything from planning to actually attending and hosting the event, it's a team effort, and I really rely on them to help me.
You will drive yourself absolutely crazy if you try to coordinate everything on your own in terms of hosting your own event. So the third and final type of event that you could utilize is a virtual event. So this could be something in the form of like a webinar, or just like a little group meeting, or a big speech that you're doing, or something interactive. Like, there's a ton of opportunity for a virtual event. And the pros are, if you have a Zoom subscription, it's free. If you don't have a Zoom subscription, it's limited to 40 minutes and 100 participants. So it's relatively inexpensive, especially when you compare it to hosting your own event. Another benefit, or pro rather, is you basically have the same pros as if you're hosting an in-person event. So you are still considered as the authority figure, because you're the one that coordinated everything. You are the headliner. So people are going to look up to you and listen to you much more than if you're just an attendee. Also, with virtual events, it's much quicker than in-person events. There's a lot less planning that's involved. You don't have to worry about food or drinks. So because it's a lot quicker than in-person events, you don't really have to set anything up or tear anything down or drive anywhere. You can do them more often. So you could do them once a week or twice a month, whereas when you're hosting an in-person event, you may only be able to do it once a month or once every couple of months. these virtual events, they're very convenient for everyone to attend. People don't have to drive to get there. There's not a whole lot of work involved in them, clicking a link to attend the event. So they're much more convenient for people to attend. You can also reach audiences from any distance. Whereas if you're hosting an in-person event or you're even just participating in a community event, you are essentially going to be with people that live or work in that general area. Whereas with virtual events, you can connect with anyone in the world. So you're able to reach a lot more people and you don't have to worry about distance constraining you. You can wear PJ pants and use beauty filters, which is super nice. So you can still be comfortable and look professional, and you don't have to worry about like touching up your makeup or anything. You can just slap a filter on and you're good to go. So there are a lot of pros when it comes to virtual events. We're all about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case, no trouble. All about that case.
At Bolts Legal, we are all about your case. Text or call to schedule a free consultation for all your legal needs. boltslegal.com. And speaking of virtual events, as you may know, Miss Biz has started doing weekly virtual events on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is because we want to be engaging with you through direct conversation. It is great for us to interact with each other and talk into a microphone, but we want to get to know you. We want to hear what your real life struggles are, and we want to be able to help you and give you insight and advice from our own experiences that's really relevant to what you're dealing with on a weekly basis. So anyone is welcome to attend these events. They are free, and you will have our undivided attention for 1 hour as we help you to brainstorm and build your business with all of the tools that we've acquired in our respective experiences. So we hope that you will put it on your calendar and plan to be with us on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that we can get to know each other better and help just build each other's businesses. So with that, I will talk about some of the cons of the virtual events. The no-show probability is high. I like to use, for virtual events, I like to use the Eventbrite as well, because people will register and you'll have their contact information. It just makes it so easy and convenient. But because it's so easy to attend, and because it's, in the middle of their day and they don't have to get ready and get in the car and drive somewhere, it's easy to either just forget about it and slip your mind, or just to get into something and be like, I'm not going to go this time. I need to just keep working on whatever I'm doing. So no-shows percentages are high for virtual events, especially when they're free. Also, I think a lot of people have what I call Zoom fatigue. It's that we just have gotten so accustomed to having Zoom presentations and Zoom events all the time that there's just not a lot of excitement around going to a Zoom event. It's more convenient, but you can't really create the same energy or do the same type of interactive activities that you could do in an in-person event to try to, just build the excitement around the event. And so it just there's only so much you can do on a Zoom event.
I think with Zoom too, there's like a level of awkwardness that's on there in terms of like, I don't know when it's appropriate to speak. There might be like a lag or something. So, you don't want to cut somebody off. I know I'm in a BNI chapter and we're a hybrid chapter and we have an amazing group of members. Like I love each and every member of my chapter, but our in-person meetings are so much better than our Zoom meetings. Our Zoom meetings can be, we have to try a lot harder to be engaging and to basically openly discuss, whereas in person, it just happens naturally.
Yeah, my chapter went full in person, meaning we meet in person every week. And since we've done that, our chapter size has almost doubled for that exact reason. There's more energy, there's more relationship, there's more connection when you're in person. So that's always going to be a downfall of a virtual event, but it has these other pros that make it still worthwhile to do, because it's just convenient and you can do it all the time. You can do them every day if you want to do them every day. So also another con is that it's hard to have one-on-one conversations in a Zoom. And I keep saying Zoom, but there's other platforms. Google Meet, for example, is another one that is free. I think it's free for 60 minutes and you can have up to 100 attendees to do Google Meet. And Zoom is free for 40 minutes and also 100 attendees. So, there's a couple different platforms. Zoom is the one I use the most, so that's why I'm referring to it, but there's definitely other platforms that you could utilize. Teams is another one that has the video recording and video meeting type of capability. But in a group session like that, it's hard to have one-on-one conversations. You can do these breakout rooms, but if you were to kind of go put yourself in a breakout room with one person, you'd be isolating the rest of the members. So it's just not really the right forum for you as the host to be doing one-on-one conversations. Now you can put the attendees in rooms where they can have one-on-one conversations, but for you as the host, it's not the best forum to do that. To get in front of the same audience size as what you can do in person, you probably need to do a number of virtual events. It's probably gonna be harder to gather a big audience because you're probably not gonna be investing the same kind of time and money into inviting for a virtual event as you would an in-person event. So you're probably gonna have a smaller attendance, especially when you're first starting out. And so to get in front of the same number of people as the in-person event, you're probably gonna need to do several virtual events to get in front of that number of people. It's harder to be creative and to be memorable in these type of virtual events because you're just limited to the technology. You also, and this is a big one, people they multitask and they don't pay attention, or they turn their cameras off, or they mute themselves, so they're not engaging with the material, and it's kind of a distraction to other people and just kind of defeats the purpose of the whole event. So that, and I've tried on sometimes when I've done Zoom events to ask people to turn their cameras on or whatever, and they just ignore it and don't do it. So it's just kind of like tough to get everyone engaged and participating. And then finally, the last con of a virtual event is technical problems. The cat lawyer who went to court. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It is hilarious. A lawyer who has a cat filter on his face, and he goes to court as a cat, and he says things like, "I'm here, I'm not a cat," and it's just hysterical. But technical problems there's always some kind of technical issue when you're doing a virtual event, so you have to kind of plan and prepare for that and be ready to troubleshoot those with your attendees. So the overall goal of a virtual event is to build an audience and to maintain consistency. It's something you can do over and over and over without a whole lot of planning or preparation or expense. And you can build your following, build your audience over time. And it really is better at doing that than any other type of event. So if you know what the strengths are of each type of event, and you can plan out your year so that you're incorporating all three of them within your budget and time constraints, then this can be an excellent addition to your marketing plan and marketing strategy.
We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you, to encourage you, and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
If you found Miss Biz helpful, please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltslegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltsmedia.com. Let's get biz done.